listen, connecting with others, we know, it's really important for our personal and professional lives, but sometimes building relationships can feel tough.
Yes, 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 yes. That is why our next guest is sharing tips to help us better connect with people, something that she has built her entire business and life around. There she is, Susan McPherson. She describes herself as a serial connector. She has decades of experience in marketing and public relations and owns her own consulting business where she helps brands with social impact work.
Social impact is where it's at. She also wrote her own book, The Lost Art of Connecting, the Gather, Ask, Do method of building meaningful business relationships. Susan, hello and welcome to New York Living.
Oh my goodness, it's so excited to be here. Thank you. I love starting a Tuesday like this.
So do we.
Yes. I saw you speak on a panel about 2 weeks ago at the Loopwell. Shout out to them. And there was 4 wonderful women sitting up there, and I think I texted my team right after. I was like, we got to have this Susan McPherson after I saw the book, after you guys talked about the book that you wrote. Because we're in such a weird period coming out of a pandemic, but AI is in the forefront. And, you know, for us who've been doing it, but I also think about the younger generations and how they kind of have been forayed into the world during and now coming out of a pandemic. So there's a whole lot to dive into with you. You're just a wealth of knowledge, and you've built an amazing career. So I first want to start with the title of the book itself. Why do you think that connection is a lost art?
Well, interestingly enough, we are more connected on this planet than we ever have been in human history. Yet, we have lost the intentionality to connect with others because it is so easy. Because you can just zap a DM on any of the social media platforms. You can hit a text, you can hit a WhatsApp. And oftentimes, we don't think about what we're saying, what we're texting. And I go back to the days of the 60s and 70s where every morning my parents would splay out the 5 local newspapers, clip and cut articles that made them think of friends, colleagues, relatives, go to their respective manual typewriters, type short little missives, and send stacks of envelopes out into the mail. But that was intentional. I am not suggesting we go back to that now.
I love that story so much, and I'm so glad you told it, because that made me stop and think for a second, because you're right. So often we're like this, and you're just firing them off, and you don't even think about what you're. Sometimes I don't even remember that I'm texting somebody.
Right. And if we just add just a little bit of thought about thinking of others, thinking how we can be supportive of others, I think the world may be a little bit of a better place.
Amen. Sure. I think, you know, at the crux of connecting is communicating, and humans communicate on a lot of different levels in a lot of different ways. Where does misconception or confusion factor into our ability to connect with humans?
Listening. Someone told me years ago, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, but guess what? We probably should have, the way we carry on, it's 2 mouths with 1 ear, right? And we tend not to listen. We are filled with distractions constantly. And it's actually nice sitting here talking to you without my phone or a screen, right?
Imagine that.
Humans have, I should also write a book, The Lost Art of Listening, because we cannot be good communicators if we're not taking in what the other person is saying or other people are saying, and actually think about that to be able to properly respond.
Yeah, the art of listening. I like that.
I'm going to let that sink in for a minute, as I hope everybody at home is doing too.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like a sermon right here.
Yeah.
This is, I said it's you've made it your business, but it's also so personal too. Let's get into the second part of the title, the Gather, Ask, Do method. What is that, and how do we go about that?
Well, it's essentially the methodology, but the underlying premise of the entire book is leading with how we can be helpful for others. So when I explain the Gather, Ask, Do, think about that, how we can be supportive of others. In the gather phase, you do a self-audit. You look into the person who is most important to you, and that is yourself. And you think about what your superpowers are. Because I don't care how old you are or whether you're just finishing school, high school or college, or approaching retirement, you have superpowers. You also think about what your goals are over the next 1 year, 3 year, 5 years. And you think about who do you want to connect with or reconnect with that are going to help not only you meet your goals, but people you can be supportive. And lastly, in the gather phase, and this is immensely important, you think about how you're going to break that hermetically sealed bubble that so many of us live in, myself included, that we tend to connect with people that look like us, sound like us, the same age, race, and color as us. That's the gather phase. The ask phase, and this goes back to what you were just talking about with listening, is learning to ask the meaningful questions of others so we can learn what their hopes and dreams are. But you have to be able to listen and take in. And lastly, the do phase, which is where I love to be, and that is where you take all of what you've heard, what you've listened to, and you become reliable, responsible, trustworthy, because you actually follow through when you learn what somebody's hopes and dreams are. But I mind you, this is not a one and done. This is not like just today. This is over our lifetimes, and leading with how we can be supportive of others.
This is fantastic. I feel like we just scratched the surface. Thank you so much for connecting with us
Oh, I'm happy
in
to.
real time.
Yes.
In real life. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Come